All right, let's dive in today, shall we? We're tackling John Tyler, the 10th president.
Uh-oh, the president nobody remembers.
Pretty much. Even I had to do a lot of research. Like, seriously, until I heard this American History Hit podcast episode with a Tyler biographer, I was clueless. But honestly, his story is wild.
Yeah, Tyler's one of those presidents who gets lost in the shuffle.
He's the guy who basically invented the vice president taking over when a president dies. Talk about a precedent.
Huge precedent.
And get this, he got kicked out of his own political party. Like, seriously, who does that?
Not your average president, that's for sure.
And the cherry on top, he had 15 kids. 15.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of kids.
So yeah, not boring at all.
Definitely not boring. He's a walking contradiction. Historians still argue about him today.
Right. That's what we're going to unpack today. How this one guy, full of contradictions, shaped America. And it all starts in 1841. A young nation, tons of ambition, but also lots of political tension.
Kind of like today, huh?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So much uncertainty in the air.
The country was wrestling with some big questions back then. Like, what's the role of the federal government? What about the economy? And of course, there's slavery looming over everything.
Okay, let's set the stage. April 1841. John Tyler, he's vice president under William Henry Harrison. And then, bam, Harrison dies after just a month in office.
Yeah, that was a shock.
Can you imagine?
That's
Suddenly you're the president. The weight of
Yeah.
the entire country on your shoulders.
And to make things even crazier, the Constitution wasn't super clear about presidential succession back then.
So Tyler's in uncharted territory, right?
Yeah.
He has to make a decision that's going to define the presidency forever.
Exactly, a make or break moment.
And he goes for it. He takes the full presidential oath, setting what we now call the Tyler precedent.
A pretty gutsy move, you have to admit.
It really makes you think, how would you handle that pressure with the whole country watching?
No pressure, right?
It's amazing. Tyler basically wrote the rule book on presidential succession in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
And that precedent, it's still with us today. Every time there's a transition of power, like Johnson after Kennedy or Ford after Nixon, they're following in Tyler's footsteps.
It's pretty remarkable when you think about it.
But here's where it gets interesting. Tyler ran as a Whig, right? He joined the party to oppose Andrew Jackson. But deep down, Tyler's beliefs were more in line with the Democrats.
Yeah, he was all about limited government, states' rights, classic Southern gentleman tied to the planter aristocracy. Didn't quite fit the Whig mold.
So it was only a matter of time before things blew up.
And blow up they did, over the National Bank, no less.
The Whigs, led by Henry Clay, they were pushing to recharter the bank. Thought it was key for the economy. But Tyler,
He wasn't having it. He was a states' rights guy through and through.
and he vetoed their bill.
Yeah.
Once.
Twice.
Talk about a power move.
Oh, the Whigs were furious. They felt completely betrayed, accused him of siding with the Democrats.
Yeah, imagine the drama.
It was like a political earthquake. And it didn't stop at accusations. They actually kicked him out of the party.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kicked out of your own party while you're the president.
Yep.
Ouch. That's gotta sting.
I mean, can you imagine being president without a party? That's political isolation on a whole new level. And it wasn't just political bickering. There were protests, people burning him in effigy outside the White House.
So, yeah, pretty lonely at the top.
You could say that. But, Tyler stood his ground, said he was acting on principle, upholding the Constitution.
It was like a battle for the soul of the nation, right?
Totally. This clash of ideologies playing out on the national stage. And just to add to the drama, Tyler's personal life takes a tragic turn. His wife, Letitia, dies while he's in office.
Yeah, that's rough.
Leaves him a widower with 8 kids. And then just a year later, he starts courting Julia Gardner, a young socialite from a prominent New York family.
And she was only 22. He was 52.
Yeah, you can imagine the gossip that's stirred up. But then something truly awful happens. Julia's father, he dies in a freak accident on a Navy ship at the White House.
It's almost Shakespearean, right?
Right. They were testing this new cannon, nicknamed the Peacemaker, and it explodes, kills several people, including Julia's father.
It's a reminder that even in the White House, life can change in an instant. But in the midst of all this tragedy, Tyler and Julia actually find love. They marry in 1844.
First presidential wedding in office, by the way.
So picture this. Tyler, a president without a party, dealing with political chaos, personal tragedy, and a new marriage that's raising eyebrows everywhere. It's a story you can't make up.
And we've only just begun. Next up, we'll see how all this turmoil shapes Tyler's approach to one of the biggest issues of his presidency, the annexation of Texas.
All right, so we left off with Tyler in a tough spot. Politically isolated, newly married, and facing a ton of scrutiny. It's 1843, and there's this whole other drama brewing Texas. All right, Texas, this independent republic, they'd won their independence from Mexico a few years back, and now they're kind of this wild card.
Exactly. And Tyler, he sees annexing Texas as this big win, a way to boost his standing and expand U.S. territory.
It seems like a no-brainer, right? More land, more power.
Well, not so fast. Remember, slavery is the elephant in the room. Always. Adding Texas to the U.S. could mean another slave state, and that's a powder keg. Abolitionists are furious. They see it as a betrayal of everything America stands for.
So Tyler's playing with fire here. He wants Texas, but it could blow up in his face.
He tries to frame it as manifest destiny. America's destined to expand across the continent. He says Texas, with all its resources and its location, it's crucial for America's future. Security, economic growth, the whole 9 yards.
It's a clever tactic, trying to appeal to everyone. But Congress, they see right through it. They know Tyler's ambitious, and they want to control the narrative.
So they come up with a plan to bring Texas in as a state, not as an annexed territory. It's a brilliant move. It totally sidesteps Tyler's authority.
It's like they stole his thunder. So Tyler's left holding the bag, but he didn't even get to pack it. What does this say about him as a politician? Was he really that savvy?
It's tricky. On one hand, he was a man of principle, willing to fight for what he believed in, even when it meant alienating his own party. But he wasn't always great at playing the political game. He didn't build the right alliances. And in the end, it cost him. The annexation of Texas is a perfect example.
He had the vision, but maybe not the execution. And speaking of execution, what about the bigger picture here? How does Texas annexation fit into everything else that's happening in the U.S. at the time?
It's a turning point, no doubt, a step closer to civil war. Adding another slave state just throws more fuel on the fire. The North and South are increasingly divided. Tensions are sky high.
It's like the country's on a collision course, and Texas is just one more step towards the inevitable.
Exactly. It wasn't the only cause of the Civil War, but it was a huge catalyst. And Tyler's right there, smack dab in the middle of it.
So what do historians make of all this?
Yeah.
Where does Tyler land in the grand scheme of things?
Well, opinions are split, as always. Some people see him as a visionary. He understood how important Texas was, and he went for it, even with everyone against him. Others say he was reckless, that he put expansion ahead of everything else, even the moral implications of slavery.
So once again, Tyler's a mixed bag, hard to pin down.
That's him all over, complex, contradictory. And as we head into the last part of our deep dive, things are about to get even more intense. We're talking Civil War, the ultimate test for a nation and for Tyler himself.
Welcome back to our deep dive on John Tyler. Man, what a story, right? Accidental president, kicked out of his own party, annexes Texas, and then to top it all off, sides with the Confederacy. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, he really keeps you guessing. A true enigma, you could say.
Totally. He was all about his principles, but it seemed like he was always on the outs with someone. He made the presidency more powerful, but was obsessed with limited government. And then he supports the Confederacy. It's almost like he was two different people.
Well, that's history for you. It's messy, complicated. We can't judge people from the past by today's standards.
Right, we have to try to see things through their eyes.
Exactly. We need to understand the context, what people believed back then, the challenges they faced. It's not about condoning what they did, but trying to understand why.
Like with slavery, I mean, it's horrific, obviously, but back then it was just how things were.
It was woven into the fabric of society. Tyler's views on states' rights, as messed up as they seem now, were pretty common at the time.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. We can learn from history, but we can't erase it.
Exactly. We need to acknowledge the past, the good and the bad, so we can build a better future.
So as we wrap up our Tyler deep dive, what are the key takeaways? What should we remember about this guy?
Well, first off, he accidentally made a huge contribution to the presidency itself. That whole Tyler precedent thing, that's all him. It's how we handle presidential transitions to this day. It keeps things stable when things are chaotic.
Yeah, that's something people often forget about him.
It's overshadowed by all the drama, for sure. But it's a big deal. It's part of the foundation of our democracy.
What else?
Tyler also shows us that even presidents are human, with all the flaws and contradictions that come with it. He had strong beliefs, but he made mistakes. He could be stubborn and kind of tone-deaf sometimes.
He definitely wasn't your typical politician.
Nope. And that's a good reminder for us. We tend to oversimplify things, put people in boxes, but real life and history are much more complex than that.
So what's the final word on John Tyler? What should we take away from all this?
Be curious about history, but be empathetic too. Ask tough questions. Don't take things at face value. And most importantly, understanding the past helps us understand the present.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the life of John Tyler. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about this forgotten president and got a glimpse into how messy and complicated American history really is. If you're hungry for more, check out that American History Hit episode. It's a good one. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.